basically now you're just about you disassemble with the receiver, the action, and that you can set it there. The next thing you're going to want to disassemble is the breech block. And why? Because you'd want to take the firing pin out, make sure it's cleaned, lubricated. You don't want to oil it. They could get frozen. They'll rust inside there. So you want to get them out and get them cleaned up. So I'm going to get the proper screw, and I'll show you a screwdriver bit, and I'll show you how to take apart the breech bolt. Okay, now we have our breech bolt free from the action. If you look, there's a screw right there, and that's the screw that's going to hold the thumb piece in. So we get the screwdriver in there, we take that screw out, and remove it. It's under a little bit. There is a spring in there, so you get the screw out first. Kind of hard to show it. And there's a plate that goes in here, and the thumb lever, and there's a spring behind this. So you just kind of wiggle it, twist it backwards and out, and it'll come out. And here's your plate. It goes into the side of your breech. The plate where the screw goes through. There's your little locking cam, and then there's a detent in there where this spring is, and that's your thumb piece spring. Take that out. Basically that's what you got in there, a little spring. Now you have to remove this to be able to get to this other screw, and this is the screw that holds the firing pin in. So you got to kind of take the thumb piece out to get to the firing pin. And then we remove this screw here. And then your firing pin, which goes in. Now the firing pin on these later model ones will have a slot, and that's where the end of that screw, if you look, that screw locks into that, and that keeps it in place, and it comes out like this. Now you want to clean your firing pin, make sure there's no rust, that it travels freely, and you really don't want to oil it. You want to put kind of a dry lubricant on it, and you know, because it can get frozen in place over time, and if this gets stuck, and if the firing pin is stuck in a downward position where it is protruding from the face of the bolt, when you close the action, it can set off a cartridge. So you want to make sure that it stays free moving in there. Okay? And that's about how you can, that's as far as you go with your disassembly. And now you can clean, you know, you have your barreled action all removed, and now we can clean it, clean the inside of the receiver and that. So I'll show you how to reassemble it in the next part of the video. Okay, we've cleaned our trapdoor, inspected everything, got everything back. Now we're going to reassemble it. First is the firing pin. Take your breech bolt. You know the firing pin goes in there. There's that notch for the screw. So you can set this in, and where you see it line up down in the screw hole, you know you're in the right spot. Place the screw in, and it'll go flush when it's locked into the slot like it should be. And take it and check and make sure you have free movement. You push on the front, it comes up, push down, you got free movement. Fantastic. Then, not to be confused with the ejector spring, you take the thumb piece spring. There's a hole in there. Drop the spring down in there. Now the thumb piece, this goes into this hole on the opposite side and that tip of that spring's got to lock into this detent. So, and then the plate that's swinging loose here goes right in here. So what you want to do is kind of get that shaft in there at an angle like you twisted it backward and out, and line it up, and then try to get it to where it catches the spring. So now you got it over the spring. Now you go and you bring this plate down, which can be tricky. You bring the plate down to where it locks into the breech bolt. And the screw goes in where it should go, holding this down. And then you screw that in till it's tight. Check for movement. Okay. Now your breech bolt is completed and back together. Now we go to the breech. And as we look on the side where this pin goes, here's the pin in the tail, we'll just slide it in. If you notice on that breech bolt pin, there's a tail and then another pin which aligns in a hole here at the bottom of the receiver. So you can put that in like this without all the stuff, just to get an idea how it orientates. You have to bear that in mind when putting this back together. Now, we have our ejector. Our ejector, the spring, and a little detent piece. Make sure it's in there. The spring and the detent go into the hole in the receiver. This goes all the way to the left and should line up in the receiver. Now the problem is getting it in the detent and getting pressure back on the spring. This is where you'll have to use a punch to more or less, and that's going to be the 3/16 punch. Have to go and try. Now what you're going to have to do with that detent is have it down and push in towards the spring to kind of get tension on it. And it is tough. It is hard. You're going to have to move it back and forth and get it in there. I don't want to go. Get it up and use the punch to help align it. Okay, in there. You got the punch to align it. You're going to have to put like downward pressure on it to get it to get across. You can look at it this way, and you can see where the punch will, which way you got to twist the punch and align the holes. Let me back that up. So maybe you can see it. You get the punch in, you get it into the extractor, and with your thumb you're going to have to push down on the extractor, and with the punch try to slide it around in there until it lines up. And once it gets, you're looking down, line it up, get your pin, try to get your pin in there. This is kind of a, there it goes. This one went easy. So now you got that lined up. Take your breech bolt. Pin went in too much. But be careful not to pull the pin out too much. You don't want that thing to come loose again. Pull it back in there, and then now you can get your breech bolt in. Not quite. There we go. And now you got it lined up.